Although you feel broken, keep going. I went through a very dark phase in my life, and I still had to go to work. I still had to do what I needed to do. I think it all began when I had met my son's father. We had started a relationship quite fast, and I got pregnant quite early as well. And we thought we'd just start a relationship due to me being pregnant. There was verbal and there was also physical abuse as well. So our relationship was just toxic at an extreme level, to the point where there was one moment in our relationship where we had a physical altercation, and I had fallen on my stomach while I was pregnant, and I had to go to hospital. When I was 8 months pregnant, my son's father, he decided to leave. He broke up with me via text, and he left for Australia. And I think that forced me into a very dark place, because I knew that I was getting close to giving birth, and I was going to be entering motherhood as a solo mother, and it was nothing that I wanted. So I did have suicidal thoughts. I did, have very dark thoughts.
There are certainly high rates of postnatal depression and antenatal depression in Pacific mums here in New Zealand. Antenatal means before giving birth, so that's during the pregnancy. Postnatal is afterwards, and perinatal covers both. So postnatal depression is more than feeling stressed. It's actually a medical condition where your brain sort of runs out of the chemicals it needs to keep going, or runs low on them. And so things which are quite usual, like sleeping and eating and thinking and concentrating and remembering and even loving people, just all don't work as they usually do. So it's not something that you just deal with and get through, like the stress of a crying baby, a barking dog, and a moaning husband who all need feeding. You feed them all, you get on with it, and you feel better. With the depression, you're likely to crumple into a heap and just not be able to do it.
Okay, my name is Milana Wickham. I am 28 years old, and I am a wife to Jamie and a mum to two girls, Esther, who's 3 years old, and Shiloh, 2 years old. When Esther was born, it was just magical. Everything in my life, it just felt complete. I was just in a really happy place. Everything was happy, and it took a lot for me to get annoyed about anything. And when Shiloh was born, it was quite the opposite. I was, instead of being happy of my newborn baby, I was afraid of her. At first, I didn't know how to deal with it. And yeah, it took a year for me to realize that after Shiloh was born, that I was going through postnatal depression, and I had no idea at the time. And because of that, a lot of things changed. I mean, I changed as a person. I wasn't the happy mom, happy life person. It was quite the opposite. I think my biggest fear was just being afraid of being alone. because I grew up in Tonga. Growing up in Tonga, when you have a baby, you're just surrounded by families. You know, people just come in uninvited and they help you and they do things for you. And I guess I had always wanted that. And when Shiloh was born, I desperately needed that. And because I didn't have that, I was afraid to be alone at home, because I thought, what if I can't do it? You know, there's there's just no one, you know. After a while, I started looking up stuff, and I read about what a lot of mums were going through. And I remember my midwife mentioning postnatal depression, so I decided to look it up. And it was like reading a description of myself on the internet. And I still wanted to keep it quiet because I thought, I'm a strong person. I can work on this. I can heal. You know, I can do this on my own.
Why do Pacific mums have such high rates? Socioeconomic deprivation makes you more likely to develop postnatal depression. Extremes of age, like being a very young mum or a very old mum, so under 20, over 40, you're more likely to develop depression. But that's probably not quite enough, because also we know that in New Zealand, Pacific peoples, specifically New Zealand-born Pacific people, have more anxiety and depression than any other group.
My son had arrived. It was like God still saw worth in me to stay. And that was a message to me personally, that he still loved me, although I felt alone. Although I felt I did have support around me, I still felt alone, but I felt like I could continue forward. When I get into some very low moments, I tend to isolate, but in this experience, I had to do the opposite. I had to be surrounded by positive things, positive people, and I do have quite very good quality friends that I can count on one hand, who have been a great support system for me, as well as my mother, who was also a solo mother as well, so she could definitely relate to me on that level. I had a spiritual kind of pull, in a sense, that I was drawn to nature. Although I work in nature, it was like I was pulled to just go and walk. And it's something so simple, like people who don't really understand probably thinking like you just went to nature and walked. And that's exactly what I did. So I just started walking in nature, and I just kept walking. Every weekend it became a ritual.
I think the biggest thing was, I'm not a person that talk about feelings and things, because I grew up in a place where we don't talk about our feelings. You know, it's not about you, it's about the family as a whole. And because of, I've always had that mindset that it's not about me, you know, it's about everyone together. And because of that, I never talked about it. Even to Jamie, I didn't want him to think, I guess at the time I viewed it as weak. I didn't want him to think that I was weak, that I couldn't do my job as a mum. So I kept it quiet, and about a year went past, and I thought, I can't take this anymore. So I just went up to him and I said, hey, we gotta rethink this marriage. I don't think, and he was shocked because he had no idea what was going on. And I guess I just expected him to read my mind or read what I was going through. And from then on, that was the beginning of it. That's what led to us talking more and more about what I was going through. Last year we went we did couple counselling, and I found that talking about it to someone random and just opening up and them asking questions and you just telling them, it just helped a lot. You know, just letting things out, even if it was to a stranger.
I'm very content with my life right now. I have an awesome husband who respects me on every level. He has been a part of my healing as well. And I just definitely I'm very blessed. Definitely speak out. As hard as it is sometimes, I think it's the most important thing to do is just talk about it.